The sound of concrete cracking echoed through the construction site like a gunshot, and I watched $3.2 million worth of structural foundation begin to collapse. But it was the best investment I ever made. Why? Because buried in the rubble was the irrefutable proof that my own brother had deliberately sabotaged my career-defining project, replacing load-bearing specifications with substandard materials that would have killed dozens of people. I am Rowan Ashford, 28 years old, a structural architect who'd just been named lead designer on the Meridian Tower project, a 40-story luxury residential building that would reshape the city's skyline. My older brother Griffin, 31, was what our parents called entrepreneurial, which was code for failed at 4 different business ventures and currently living in their pool house. What they didn't know was that Griffin had been fired from his last architecture firm for forging an engineer's stamp on structural drawings. What they refused to see was that every success he'd ever claimed was either stolen credit or outright fabrication. My parents, Harrison and Vivian Ashford, had always favored Griffin. Always. I could win design awards, secure multi-million-dollar contracts, get featured in Architectural Digest, didn't matter. Griffin could sketch a crooked line and Mother would call it innovative. Griffin's jealousy reached critical mass when I was selected to lead the Meridian Tower project. The commission was worth $8 million to my firm, with my name attached as principal architect. This wasn't just a building, it was a legacy project, the kind that defines careers, that gets you keynote speeches at conferences, that puts your face on the cover of industry magazines. My brother couldn't stand it. It started 6 months before groundbreaking. I was in my office, reviewing structural calculations for the tower's foundation, when Griffin appeared unannounced. He'd somehow talked his way past building security, claiming to be my assistant. "So this is the famous Meridian Tower," he said, circling my drafting table like a predator. "The project that's going to make you a star." I looked up from my CAD software. "Griffin, I'm on a deadline." "What do you want?" "I want you to add my name to the design team." He said it casually, like he was asking to borrow $20. "As co-architect. It would look good for both of us, the Ashford brothers, building the future together." I stared at him. "You don't have a valid architecture license anymore. You can't legally sign drawings." His face darkened. "That's a temporary situation. A misunderstanding with the licensing board. You forged structural stamps, Griffin." "That's not a misunderstanding. That's fraud." "Always so self-righteous," he sneered. "Always so perfect. You know what? I'm your brother. You owe me." Then he called our parents. Within an hour, both of them were in my office. Mother already crying, father wearing his signature, "You've disappointed us," expression. "Rowan, sweetheart," Mother began, gripping my hands with her manicured fingers. "Griffin feels excluded from your success. He feels like you're leaving him behind in the dust." "Mom, this is a licensed professional project. I can't just add him because." "Your brother is struggling," father interrupted, his voice carrying that tone that meant resistance was futile. "The least you can do is throw him a lifeline. Show some family loyalty. Let him work under your supervision. Rebuild his reputation. He committed professional fraud. His reputation should be ruined." "That's harsh," Mother said, her voice breaking. "How can you be so cruel to your own brother? After everything we've sacrificed for you?" The gaslighting was masterful. They'd perfected it over decades, making Griffin's failures my responsibility, his career my problem to fix. But I stood firm. I couldn't add him to the Meridian project. The liability alone would sink everything. Griffin left my office that day with a look I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not disappointment. Something colder. More calculated. Dangerous. I should have recognized that look for what it was, intent. 4 months before the scheduled groundbreaking, strange things started happening. Project files were accessed at odd hours, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., when no one should have been in the office. Digital timestamps showed my login credentials being used, but I was home, asleep. Someone had either cloned my security badge or hacked my system access. Then specifications started changing. Small things at first. A decimal point shifted in a steel beam calculation. A concrete mixture ratio adjusted by a few percentage points. Nothing that would trigger immediate red flags, but enough to compromise structural integrity over time. My junior architect, Maya, caught the first discrepancy. Rowan, the rebar spacing in the foundation drawings doesn't match what you approved last month. It's showing 24-inch centers instead of 12-inch. That's not even code compliant. I pulled up the file. She was right. The drawing showed my digital signature, dated 2 weeks prior. But I'd never approved those changes. Pull the original files from backup, I said, my stomach sinking. The backup files showed the correct specifications. Someone had altered the active construction documents after I'd signed them. I immediately ordered a full audit of all project files. What we found was horrifying. 17 separate structural documents had been modified. Load-bearing wall specifications reduced. Foundation depth decreased by 2 feet. Concrete strength ratings downgraded. Fireproofing requirements eliminated in 3 floors. Each change was subtle enough to pass casual inspection but catastrophic in aggregate. If construction had proceeded with these specifications, the Meridian Tower would have collapsed within 5 years. Maybe less. Hundreds of people would have died. And every modification bore my digital signature. My professional stamp. My liability. I called an emergency meeting with the project engineers, the general contractor, and my firm's senior partners. We spent 16 hours going through every document, comparing originals to the modified versions. Who had access to these files? Asked Marcus Webb, the senior partner at my firm. Only me and my immediate team, I said. Then I paused, remembering. And Griffin. My brother. He convinced me to give him temporary access credentials 3 months ago. Said he wanted to learn from my process. I'd been stupid. Generous. I thought maybe if I gave him something small, read-only access to educational materials, he'd feel included. Feel valued. Instead, he'd used those credentials to systematically sabotage the most important project of my career. Marcus's face went white. If these modified documents had been used, if the building had failed, I'd have been criminally liable, I finished. Professional negligence. Manslaughter. My career would be over. I'd probably be in prison. We immediately flagged all compromised documents, reverting to verified originals. I had the IT department pull complete access logs. The evidence was damning. Griffin's credentials, using my cloned security permissions, had accessed and modified structural documents on 23 separate occasions between midnight and 5 a.m. He'd been systematic. Patient. Methodical. This wasn't impulsive sabotage. This was a calculated attempt to destroy me. The construction schedule was delayed by 6 weeks while we verified every specification, every calculation, every drawing. The client was furious. The contractor threatened to walk. My firm's reputation hung by a thread. But I had evidence. Time-stamped logs. Digital forensics showing the modification history. Security camera footage of Griffin entering the office building late at night, using my cloned credentials. I called Griffin. Kept my voice calm, neutral. We need to talk about the Meridian project. There have been some issues with the documents. Oh. His tone was carefully concerned. What kind of issues? Modifications to structural specifications. Dangerous ones. The kind that could have collapsed the building. Silence on the other end. Then, that's terrible. How did that happen? Your access logs show you made the changes, Griffin. 23 separate instances. Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice had shifted, defensive, aggressive. You can't prove that. Anyone could have used my credentials. Maybe your security is just bad. We have security camera footage. Time stamped. Showing you entering the building at 3 a.m. multiple times. I was just visiting. Looking around. I didn't touch anything. Then you won't mind coming to the police station with me. We're filing a report. Attempted fraud. Professional sabotage. Reckless endangerment. You're bluffing. Try me. He hung up. 2 hours later, my parents called. Father's voice was ice. How dare you threaten your brother with police action? Over a misunderstanding. He tried to make it look like I approved structural specifications that would have killed people. That's not a misunderstanding. He made a few mistakes. 23 deliberate modifications to load-bearing calculations. That's not mistakes. That's attempted murder. Mother's voice broke in, sobbing. He's your brother. How can you be so cruel? He was just trying to help, to learn from you, and now you're trying to ruin his life. I felt something snap inside me. Clean. Final. He tried to ruin mine first. He tried to destroy my reputation, end my career, and potentially kill hundreds of people. I'm done protecting him. I hung up. Blocked their numbers. And called my lawyer. The civil lawsuit was filed within 48 hours. Professional sabotage. Fraud. Interference with contract. Punitive damages totaling $4.5 million, enough to cover the project delays, the additional structural review costs, the reputational damage to my firm, and a message that this kind of betrayal had consequences. The criminal investigation took longer. 3 months of forensic analysis, depositions, expert testimony about structural engineering standards and what the compromised specifications would have caused. The state licensing board moved first. They revoked Griffin's architecture license permanently. Not suspended. Revoked. He would never practice architecture again. The district attorney eventually declined to prosecute criminally. The case was complex, the damage theoretical rather than actual, and proving intent beyond reasonable doubt would be difficult. But the civil case was airtight. Griffin's lawyer advised him to settle. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage. Digital forensics. Access logs. Expert testimony from structural engineers explaining exactly how the modified specifications would have led to catastrophic failure. The mediation happened 7 months after I'd discovered the sabotage. Griffin sat across from me in a conference room that smelled like expensive wood polish and defeat. He'd aged a decade in 7 months. His suit was off the rack, his hair unwashed, his eyes carrying the hollow look of someone who'd finally realized the consequences of their actions. My parents weren't there. They'd refused to come, citing emotional distress and not wanting to take sides. Their absence was its own kind of clarity. Griffin's lawyer opened with an offer, $500,000, paid over 10 years. My lawyer smiled coldly. $4.5 million, paid over 3 years, or we go to trial. And when we win, and we will win, it'll be the full amount plus legal fees. Your choice. Griffin looked at me directly for the first time. You're really going to do this? Destroy your own brother? I leaned forward. You tried to make me responsible for a building collapse that would have killed families. Children. Elderly residents. And you did it because you were jealous that I succeeded where you failed. So yes. I'm really going to do this. The settlement was signed at $3.8 million. His lawyer had negotiated down slightly, using Griffin's complete lack of assets as leverage. He'd have to liquidate everything, his car, his belongings, eventually garnish any future wages for decades. I walked out of that conference room feeling lighter than I had in months. The Meridian Tower broke ground 8 months later than originally scheduled. I stood at the construction site in my safety vest and hard hat, watching the first concrete pour for the foundation. The specifications were correct now. Every calculation verified. Every structural element designed to keep people safe. Marcus Webb stood beside me. You know, most architects in your position would have walked away. Let someone else take over. Too much risk, too much trauma. I shook my head. This building almost became my tombstone. Instead, it's going to be my legacy. Every beam, every column, every safety system, it's proof that I protected something worth protecting. The tower was completed 18 months later. 40 stories of glass and steel, rising into the skyline exactly as I designed it. Beautiful. Safe. Perfect. I was standing in the completed penthouse on opening day when Maya called. You need to see this. She sent me a link to a news article, former architect arrested for fraud scheme. Griffin had tried to run a construction consulting scam, claiming expertise he didn't have, forging credentials. He was facing actual criminal charges this time. I read the article once. Closed the browser. Deleted the link. He wasn't my problem anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother, how can you live with yourself? Your brother is in jail because of you. I blocked the number. Should have done it months ago. 2 years after the settlement, my firm promoted me to senior partner. The Meridian Tower had won 3 international design awards. I had a waiting list of clients who wanted the architect who wouldn't compromise safety for anything. Sometimes people asked if I regretted taking my brother down so hard. If family loyalty should have meant something. I always gave them the same answer: he chose to endanger hundreds of lives to satisfy his ego. That's not family. That's a threat I needed to eliminate. The Meridian Tower stands today as the safest residential building in the city. Every apartment filled. Every resident safe. And somewhere, Griffin is probably still paying off that $3.8 million settlement, one garnished paycheck at a time. I built my career on precision, on safety, on refusing to compromise. The foundation he tried to destroy became the foundation of everything I've achieved. Some structures need to be torn down completely before you can build something that lasts. Now I have questions for anyone reading this, because some distant relatives, people who don't want to take sides, think I went too far. Question 1, was I wrong to pursue $3.8 million in damages against my own brother? Some family members say I should have just reported him and moved on. Question 2, Griffin will be paying off this settlement for the rest of his life. Should I have accepted a smaller amount, or was the full consequence necessary? Question 3, do you agree that protecting public safety is more important than family loyalty, even when it means destroying a sibling's future? Please leave your thoughts below.